Welcome to the Hope for the Warriors podcast. I'm Kate Dudley, a military spouse and your host. And I am so excited about this 4th of July episode because we are bringing the fireworks with a beautiful studio space courtesy of your local IT department. Thank you so much for letting me invade your space and, quite frankly, get out of my in-home studio. And of course, for supporting Hope for the Warriors. But we had to do it big because we have a big guest on today. We have Bravo star Craig Conover. Craig, thank you so much for being on today.
Of course. Thank you, Kate, for having me. Thanks for Hope for the Warriors for inviting me. And I'm excited.
First off, before we get into your Hope for the Warriors connection, I want to learn a little bit more about you. What were some of your childhood goals and aspiration? What was growing up for you like?
I was pretty fortunate, which you don't realize till later in life. But my mom was a school teacher. She taught fifth grade, and my dad started a cleaning company that kind of started it or turned into a construction company. And so it was a simple life, but I got to have dinner every night with my parents, and my dad coached my teams and all of that. So they were very supportive with all of my different endeavors, which sometimes were a little more unique. And so I played baseball my whole life, but I did karate, and but at the same time of doing all that stuff, I was gardening in the backyard, and my parents let me cook, and so I made like a cookbook in seventh grade with little Polaroid pictures. And I was always finding new hobbies to entertain myself. But I grew up in right outside Fenwick Island, Delaware, and my grandparents lived outside Annapolis because my parents, my dad's side worked for the government. My mom's side was Navy and stuff. And so we were just a classic kind of mid-Atlantic family, traditional mid-Atlantic family.
Did you have a favorite beach that you used to go to? Because in my world, I'm from outside Philadelphia. We go down the shore.
Yeah. My grandparents had a cottage in Fenwick Island. And so my first job was at Fisher's Popcorn, making, caramel popcorn, and ended up bartending, waiting tables at Catch 54, which was part of the Sodell restaurant group. I was actually the last person out of the Catch 54 fire. That was a crazy night. And there's a ghost in this room. That's why that door just opened. But yeah, I mean, I always thought, I wanted to break Cal Ripken's most consecutive game record as a goal that I remember as being a kid. And then I got hurt in high school, my elbow, not that I was good enough to go on, but I found College of Charleston and started to go that way. But yeah, early aspirations were just trying to find the best version of me. I mean, nerd's not the right word, but I mean, I was like a computer geek, and I ended up taking college classes in eighth grade for math. And so we would be bussed up to University of Delaware's satellite campus as an eighth grader. So I was
Wow.
kind of just always trying to find my spot in life. But I don't know. I got bullied pretty bad growing up. So when it came time for college, I just knew that I wanted to get out of town. Even though I love going home now, I needed a fresh start.
How did you get involved with
Yeah,
Southern Charm and what was the audition process like?
I was in my second year of law school and got a Facebook message from a girl saying that she was working for a gentleman who turned out to be this guy, Whitney. Um, he had created a show that Bravo or NBC really liked, but they didn't like the people on the original sizzle reel. And so they wrote character profiles and sent character scouts to Charleston to just find people for the show. And I guess I matched the description of one of those profiles. And so this guy, Whitney, that's on the show, he wined and dined us for probably 4 or 5 months. At first, he had just told us that he needed help. He needed someone to show him around Charleston because he was making a show there. But in reality, they were secretly kind of scouting me. So he put me on camera, and I still kind of thought it was all made up. I didn't think it was real. But when they offered us contracts, I reached out to my now friend Cameron on Facebook also and was like, hey, I'm sitting in my law class, like Googling, should I do a reality show or not? And it's not it's not producing any answers. Um, and I knew that she was on Real World, but I didn't know her personally. And she was like, oh, funny enough, they actually asked me to join too, and this other guy that reached out. So Cameron Shep and I had a lunch and just kind of decided to do it. And a year later, cameras showed up. So it was pretty bizarre. I had to ask my, you know, dean at the law school at the time what I should do. And she was just like, hey, you're not going to work for a defense firm anytime soon, but there's always personal injury. And, just don't do anything too crazy. And it just came down to, I was like, what would I regret more? Not doing it and wondering what if, or doing it and having to deal with the consequences later. So 5 years later, I was sitting in front of all five justices of the Supreme Court of South Carolina, explaining to them what a reality show really was and what my connection to some of the cast members were. So it kind of happened fast.
Do you remember anything about that initial character profile that they were looking for that you matched?
It wasn't good. It was looking for kind of a college, like a fraternity guy that, went out all the time and knew a lot of people. It was really for a connected kind of younger person in town. And in the beginning, people were like, well, Craig's not even from Charleston. And I was like, no, I'm definitely not. But it was about people living in Charleston. And I think that was something that got lost. But, the town took a little while to warm up to the show because really Jersey Shore was the only thing that people had anything to base it on. And so I remember some friends that own restaurants didn't let us film their first season. And then second season were texting me being like, hey, when are you guys going to come in and film at the bar? But it was just kind of it was an outgoing, kind of party guy, things that I was back, when I was 23 that I've tried to grow out of now. But it was definitely one chapter. I was social chair of my fraternity and, knew all the bartenders and kind of back then got value from, I guess, being popular because I didn't have it when I was little. And so it was me kind of proving to myself that it wasn't my problem why people were like mean to me as a kid, but it was their problem because I was fortunate to have that perspective. But yeah, so basically that kind of drive to be liked and accepted really shaped my free time. My free time was spent going out on King Street in Charleston. And there's a time and place for everything.
Well, it makes me think, so many people navigate those years of their life, early mid 20s, and only a couple people in town see what goes on. That's the gossip. But you're living through these years and it's on TV for everyone to see. What is that like? Was that kind of shell shock for you at the beginning, realizing that everything you say and do in those moments is going to be in front of everyone?
It was challenging because there was nothing to prepare you for it. I don't think you realize that it's challenging at first. I think that's where some of the true challenges come from because it takes a couple years to be like, oh, maybe this is why I'm dealing with this, or maybe this is why, um, I guess certain things like that people would talk to therapists, like it definitely comes up, but it's, um, the show acts as a giant mirror to yourself. And I think in the beginning, it's easy, it's also depends on the year, your first year, they have to sell you in the show. And so you're portrayed in a more positive light, right? And so people talk about editing. It's not whether or not they show something, it's are they going to include the context to why that's happening, right? So yeah, you can show me yelling or fighting with someone, but are you going to show the context that led up to that? And I think that's, you know, first season, you're like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is nice. Everyone thinks I'm like this fun, laughable, like, friendly guy. But then second season, things get a little more real, and they show some of the darker sides to your personality, or some of the things that you struggle with. And your guard's completely down, because the first year they only showed the good stuff about you. And so after your second season comes out is when you start to that's the first time you're challenged. And you're kind of rage texting the production company and stuff. And, looking back, it's easier to take accountability now. Like, that's what I've worked on in the last few years. Like, yeah, there's always someone you can blame. There's a reason for everything, but you still were doing those things. And so I was lucky to get involved before social media was what it is today. I mean, we were still in a pretty tight bubble. Like, people didn't know the show was coming back on until it aired. There wasn't as much hate online as there is now. It was more fun. I'd say, like, everyone was just thought it was, silly. And now the exposure, I mean, I think you can stream us in 150 countries, which is crazy. And the reality TV has become this thing now where people feel like you're like not real feelings wise, because you're playing they treat you like you're playing a character on a television show, however you're playing yourself. And so it's been an interesting thing. So I started filming when I was 24, and I'm 36 now, and so 12 years of my life has been captured. And yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster of a ride. It's ever changing, and I feel like I've studied it a lot, because I watch people that come after me kind of fall into the same pitfalls and celebrate the same like thing. So it's a crazy world to have an inside, like, purview on.
And you all just wrapped up season 10 filming, is that right?
We're in the process of season 10, yes, which
Okay.
is uh also crazy.
It's
That's
great.
it's I think there's 150 episodes of Southern Charm or something like that.
Is there anything that you can give insight to the listeners on this? Something that they should expect, or something they should look forward to, or just that it's going to be a crazy season to watch?
I think television, or reality television as a whole, is um, at a turning point. I think, yes, people have been on shows for, a long time, before us, but at this moment, there are a lot of people on the network that have been around for, 5+ years. And the hope is that you evolve and grow. And so, like, I don't, thank God, I mean, there's definitely parts of it, but I don't fit the same profile that they wrote in the early years. I'm not that, like, I wouldn't be casted today to fill that 24-year-old, like, fraternity social chair out on King Street every night guy. However, I feel that the millions of people who have rooted for us through the years would enjoy seeing us grow, and seeing us evolve. How the network treats all of these veterans, or decides, where we go from here, we don't know. And so I still have a lot of my life to share, and I hope to continue to share it. We just, at some point, someone's going to have to take a risk and be like, hey, I think we can kind of change the formula up a little bit. But this year, it's not going to disappoint anyone. I mean, it's, you know, you get to follow Shep's journey since last year. Viewers will know that he was struggling with making, or he was making decisions to basically, he wanted to change the direction of his life. Um, I stopped drinking for the most part last July, so I'm kind of coming into a whole new arena in life where Paige and I are trying to just race forward with our businesses. And um, I kind of balance or try to balance that with just trying to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. But what I try to express, and Austin's got a new girlfriend, and I try to express to everyone, like, just because you're doing better doesn't mean you have everything figured out. I think sometimes it comes off as like, oh, well, like, you're just, you have this like you're doing so well now, or this illusion or whatever it is. And it's like, well, no, every day, requires work. Like, you gotta, like, for me, I have to wake up and work out. Like, if I don't work out, it really like throws my mind um off course. I know that's kind of a cliche one, but waking up and being active really changes my mindset every day, and it really helps me become a better person. We have some new girls on the show, um, but it'll be good. It'll be fun for viewers to catch up with us.
You mentioned your business. You just opened up the new Sewing Down South store in Nashville. What was that like? How exciting was it to open that up? How's it going so far?
It's crazy. I took a moment. We had friends and family on Friday, which is funny because Paige and I had a trip planned to Italy with her parents before I even signed the lease on this store. I just signed the lease about 8 weeks ago. It happened fast. My poor parents were on a trip with their friends. My partner's parents, like, one had surgery. And so friends and family ended up being just friends, which it's because we turned it around so fast. But I about I'd say about 500 to 600 people came on Saturday, and another 400, 300 to 400 on Sunday. And
Wow.
I met, every single one. I try to get to know everyone in the couple of minutes that I have with them. And I took a break in the back for a couple minutes just to eat a protein bar. And it kind of, hit me where I was like, I can't believe we have a physical store in Charleston, but now we have a second store at Nashville. So it's really exciting, but it's really, I'm definitely extremely nervous because the store in Nashville is definitely pricier than the one in Charleston. And Charleston's a proven concept. Charleston, it works. We have the show uh, you know, anchoring the type of tourism that they get. They already have turnover every single week. Nashville has all that foot traffic and probably even more, but people really, I mean, we're really going to test if people accept the brand for what it is. Sewing Down South's growing, but um, we'll see if it's supported there. So I hope it is. But I mean, my favorite thing is sharing that with everyone else because, the cast, like the inner circle on the show, I mean, they were anything but supportive when I first started. They were quite negative, but so many people on the outside were so supportive and so positive that that's who I like to engage with, and that's who I like to share it with. And I think it's really neat that they have a place that they can come and like touch and feel, the what is now the light at the end of the struggle or the end of the tunnel that they watched for so many years on the show. So it's really neat. And I'm proud of myself, but I told my partners, Jerry and Amanda, I was like, because Jerry handles all the numbers, like the business, like, well, the bills. I like to see the sales, but he handles the bills. He's the reason we make money. If it was up to me, we'd just give everything away. But I was like, all right, like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And both of their faces were like, do not say that. But I was like, it's worth trying. Like, we're gonna try our hardest. We're gonna see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. To them, judging by their faces, it was, but I know that it's not. So it's funny.
How did Sewing Down South come about for you?
So I was going through a breakup in my mid 20s, which these are the things that really, really were unfortunate to be filmed back then. I didn't watch the show for years, not until last year. It had been probably like 5 seasons because it was so like tough to relive a lot of that stuff. But
I
the
bet.
blessing is now it is recorded. And so now when I go around the country and speak, I get to highlight things like, hey guys, that mid 20s breakup that you go through and you think it's the end of the world and it's not, like I can speak from it because mine you can go watch. You're stuck in a habitual pattern and you don't know any better. And then, there's not many people, I don't know anyone who's not better off after a breakup. Maybe one of my cast members, but you'll see that this season. But no, I mean, no one is better after a breakup, or no one's not better after a breakup. I mean, it takes a while, but then you find your person. And so I had my garden and my workshop at the house that my ex and I lived in together. And so when I left, all I had was my sewing machine. And I've been told later in life that I've always loved to create. That's basically why I like to garden and cook and also sew, is you get that feeling of creation. And so I had my sewing machine. I thought I was going to make clothes, but I had never been taught how to make clothes, and they're very difficult to make, obviously. But I had been taught how to make a pillow in my seventh grade home ec class, and I remembered. And so I tore up some old shirts and uh, I was able to sew a pillow. And when you make a pillow, you make it inside out. So when I turned it right side out, I got that rush, that feeling of creation. And so I was in between, I was waiting for it to close on my house at that time. And I was supposed to leave town because there was a hurricane coming for Charleston, but I stayed, which was stupid. Things when you get older, you're like, what was I doing? But I went and bought a bunch of fabric and I listened to Eminem and Taylor Swift all night and just sewed pillows and probably cried a little bit. And but no, the sewing kept me from being sad. And I shared a picture on Instagram, which I was kind of fishing. I made sure 3 of the pillows were in the photo and my sewing machine, but I didn't make the post about that. I was like, oh, Sunday morning watching like Disney or something silly. And everyone, like so many people reached out and they were like, oh my gosh, please tell me you sewed those pillows. What can I do to get a Craig pillow? And I knew it was just different to work. Like I knew I had something. And I also wanted to play on like, I truly believed that, doing something out of the ordinary or that's not stereotypical, that doesn't fit a stereotype, like I think that's cool. And so when I got my sewing machine, I thought I was going to walk in and everyone was going to be like, oh, wow, you're so cool. And obviously that was not the reaction I got. But, I to persevere and so that the outside world could see it. When they started to react, everyone thought it was really, really neat. And so for about a year, I didn't know what I was doing. I was sewing a ton of pillows. I got really good at it. I mean, I just I learned advanced techniques off YouTube and by Googling stuff. And I had hundreds of requests, people
Wow.
saying we'll pay anything, but I just couldn't move them out the door. Like one, I didn't know how to set up like ShipStation for shipping. I didn't even know what ShipStation was yet, which I highly recommend to early, young entrepreneurs or early, young business. And Shopify but nothing was good enough. My OCD and kind of perfectionism with stuff. And I've got like, I don't have tics, but like habitual stuff where like, I don't know, I have to do things a certain way, like really were paralyzing me. And so I got a phone call from my now partner, Jerry, who was one of the first people I met in college. And he went on to be, to run a sports marketing firm. So basically like a sports agent. And he called me and was like, hey, is anyone helping you with your pillows? And I was like, no. And he was like, I have an idea for you. And so him and his sister-in-law, Amanda, presented me with a business plan. And but they wanted to split the company in thirds. And I grew up watching Shark Tank and was told to never give up, half your company. But my dad was like, look, Craig, you've had a year to do this on your own, like, and you don't have anything from it. Do you want all of, nothing, or do you still, want a good piece of something that really might grow into a business? And so I said yes. And having partners changed my life. I mean, it's the only reason we have Sewing Down South, because they knew how to run it as a business. Jerry, I was like, am I supposed to hire like, retired like moms in my community to work out in my garage? I was like, how am I going to scale this business? And, there was actually a pillow factory an hour and a half away from Charleston and Beaufort and South Carolina. And that was the first, manufacturing facility we used. And so Jerry did all the business stuff, and Amanda's a marketing genius. And we launched the company on April Fool's Day in 2018 as kind of a joke on everyone else to be like, is this real or is it not? And it's been going great. So we still make all of our pillows in the Carolinas, and our merch is in the southern states.
When you think back to April 1st of 2018, did you ever think this could be possible to have grown this much in that amount of time where you are today?
That's a funny question. And you added the growth part. The growth part, no. I thought, me personally, knew that this could be something big. And I didn't really see any bounds in it. I just saw this vision where I was like, guys, I think we can do a lot of good with this. Like, I think, yes, home decor is a saturated market, but there's no one, that fits my like personality and demographic that's doing it right now. Now the speed at which it's grown, I did not expect. But I make fun of my partners now because we were able to start the business no money. Everyone had to put in $1,000 because that's just for documentation purposes. But we actually would take an order and take the person's money and then go have the pillow made.
Wow.
And so we had like net 60 payment terms with our factory. And so there are ways for people to start their business without putting money into it, because that's the only money we've ever put into Sewing Down South is $1,000 each. But that was stuff that Jerry knew. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And so what's funny is, just a little bit of a business story. When Hurricane Dorian hit, I was living in the Bahamas at that time, and I had to leave. And so I flew to Delaware and watched, the unfortunate stuff that happened after from there. But so I just got on my Instagram stories and I was like, every Bahamian pillow, like the proceeds of every Bahamian pillow will go to the Bahamas, like all the sales. And so my phone started to make a cash register sound while we were eating dinner with my parents. And they were like, I was like, oh, sorry, I'll silence my phone. And they were like, oh, what's that? And I was like, it means we just sold a pillow on Shopify. And they were like, we'll just leave it on. And so that night we sat at dinner and just listened to my phone go off the whole time. And like, we ended up raising, I think that week, like $70,000 for Hurricane Dorian relief.
Wow.
But the problem was, we didn't have any of the pillows that we sold because we weren't carrying inventory at the time. We were still having them made as people ordered them. And that was just impossible to do with how many pillows we sold. And so it took about 6 to 7 weeks to deliver those pillows, which I was adamantly against. Like, I was like, guys, people have watched me through the years not finish things that I started. And now they finally bought a pillow and it's going to take 7 weeks to get there. Like, they're just not going to like it. And then when they get there, it's not even a full pillow, because at the time we were just making the covers. We weren't even making the inserts. And people, even though it was for charity, their frustrations grew, understandably. And so then we started to carry inventory after that, and we started to make inserts. But, the business, they knew the right speed to grow. They knew that it would hurt us to carry inventory before it was necessary. And so um, we've paced things correctly because of my partners. You know, we didn't start making candles until the pillows were successful. We didn't start making kitchen goods till the candles were successful. So it's been a journey, and it's been like, you know, one of the more special things that I've gotten to be a part of.
Well, speaking of special things to be a part of, I think that's a great segue into your connection with Hope for the Warriors. You just joined the board council. Just where did your journey with Hope for the Warriors begin?
So I think I've got military connections in my family and some really good friends. And, you know, my uncle was a naval pilot, and grandparents were, you know, in intelligence. And my other granddad was a naval engineer, and my grandmother was a nurse. Anyway, just a lot of ties to it. And I grew up in Delaware, which is near the Dover Air Force Base. And I think I always felt, and it's not about me, but I felt guilty for not serving. I felt like I was born, you know, with an ability to that I feel like I could have helped, you know. And so but I was too, you know, selfish. For me, it didn't work. I didn't see the true answers. I didn't see a pathway to make a lot of money going into service. And I guess for me, I thought that a philanthropic side, like if I could make a lot of money, I could help people. And my path didn't take me there, but I always knew that somehow, or I always wanted to, that somehow I would try to give back in whatever way that I could. And so I've always, you know, tried to be a part of fundraising for the services. And, you know, when I found Hope, which, you know, I just received an email one day asking to come play in the tournament as a celebrity, which I think the word is silly. I know that we're just reality stars, but that's what you know, what they said. They said, would you be one of our celebrities in Hope for the Warriors tournament? And I was just very honored and jumped at the chance. And I had been looking for that way to give back. You know, at the time I'd done hurricane rescue, where we did like fast water rescue, where basically the hurricane hit where the tournament is held. And I had reached this point in my career where I was like, I had some value to give back. And so I went to my first tournament in Wallace, North Carolina, the Hope Classic, which is in, you know, August 25th and 26th this year. And man, we got to visit the base at Camp Lejeune, and we visited the Wounded Warrior Battalion, you know, had lunch with people that were hurt for multiple reasons. And me and Antoine, another celebrity that was there, we just, well, and a ton of other retired athletes and celebrities, but we just got to talk to people, and it was awesome. We got to tour the base and hear stories like of the Hell House, and, you know, all this crazy stuff. And I just knew in my heart that I had found, because I had worked with other veteran charities before, but Hope, it just kind of hit. And I loved how they supported not only the veterans themselves, but the family and the spouses, was really important to me. And so I just started to go to as many things as they would invite me to. And over the years, we were able to build a hands-on relationship with Hope. And I was asked if it would be something that I'd be interested in to join the board council. And it's still, I was telling people in Nashville, it's one of the more it's one of my proudest things that I've been able to accomplish through my television career, is to joining the board council of Hope. And very excited to see, you know, all of the work that we can do, and that use the platform that I have to spread the message. And because there's a lot of people out there that want to help. People are looking for it, but there's so many charities out there, and you don't know. You know, when I was doing hurricane rescue, it was my first time running into some stuff where I was like, this is why people, you know, don't trust just sending charities money anymore. And with Hope giving, you know, 91 0.7 cents on the dollar goes to the cause. I mean, you're just not going to find that with many charities. And it just, like I said, it fit. And so there's so many people out there that I know that want to give back. And so hopefully with my work with Hope, they'll feel, like it's an appropriate outlet for them. If it checks their boxes.
You mentioned the celebrity invitational, and there's one picture I have of you and I believe with Austin and AJ Buckley and Antoine from Warrior Night last year. And you all were speaking to Kevin Bittenbender, and everyone was so entranced in that conversation. What's it like to see and speak to the veterans that are being directly impacted by Hope?
It's so hard to put it into words. It's such a special feeling, and I was so proud of Austin because Antoine and I have been doing it for a while, and AJ works with a lot of SEALs and retired special force guys on his show SEAL Team. But Austin used to be intimidated to come, and it was very interesting. There was this feeling I got from him, and I'm sure you guys will talk to him one day too, that he almost felt like he wasn't like he didn't deserve to go yet, or he hadn't like earned like the invite. Like he was intimidated to go be around kind of people that have served, because out of a pure place, he was just like, well, Craig, like I don't do anything for veterans yet. Like, I don't know if I should go. And so he finally took the chance and came, and to watch him, interact with so many people and just see the same feeling that I got him, the same look on his face, was the exact same one I had my first Warrior Night, the night before the tournament, where you hear everyone's stories and you get to interact with people who have been wounded. And it was just very exciting. So Austin's a part of our tribe now that's coming, and AJ's coming back, and some other great celebrities. But it's all it does is give you perspective. I guarantee your language changes for a while after that. You'll go to complain about something or get annoyed with something during your day, and it goes away pretty quickly. It really doesn't start to come out of your mouth again for a few months after interacting. And then you just work on changing your perspective entirely. But, Kevin's doing marathons all over the country, and he's missing, his, like, he's missing by like most people can't even do a regular marathon. And Kevin's missing his leg. So it's just really neat. And what I saw, like Austin being intimidated to come, once he got there, he realized that there was nothing to be intimidated, to be about. Like I guess he didn't feel worthy is the word I was looking for before. And when he got there, he was like, everyone's just a person. Like everyone just wants to feel, interacted with and connected with. And it's pretty neat. So then, last Christmas or last holiday season, we went to Fort Campbell, and, the deeper you go into it, then you see, like, I had been involved with Hope for years, and I had no idea that there was food insecurities for active duty families. I thought we were just helping people who had served and come back and their families. I didn't realize that active duty people needed help too. And so my experience at Fort Campbell was the first time with that, which, was mind boggling. And, we were just handing out gift packages and care packages, and it made a huge difference to a lot of families whose husband or wife might be, or mom or dad deployed at the moment. So it's been really neat. And I have a bunch more people, joining me this year, which is great.
We love to hear that. And you mentioned Fort Campbell, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that because I really enjoyed spending time with you there and seeing your face when giving out the gingerbread cookie cottages, not gingerbread houses.
Yeah.
They're cookie cottage. But I love that It wasn't just a
Yeah.
food box. It was the fact that it was a teddy bear, a gingerbread cookie cottage that was wrapped like a present. What was that like for you to see those faces just light up and the kids in the back because there was a tornado down the street a couple days before and they're out of school? Just
Right.
having to, just being that light in such a kind of a dark moment right before the holidays.
I mean, I feel blessed to have found this, corner of the world that is what I was searching for. I love being able to, put a smile on someone's face or help them experience a happy memory. And it's so simple that like I said, it's perspective. I mean, for the families that would get to go home and build a gingerbread house, which it was a chocolate chip cookie cottage
Chocolate chip
or
cookie
cookie
cottage. Thank
cottage.
you.
Yeah. Um, a lot of times, and I'm not a parent yet, but I, was speaking to other parents there, and you're like, those things can get annoying. You have to build this like gingerbread house with your kids, and then you see people that it's such a privilege, like would do anything to build a gingerbread house for their kids, but like in that moment with the tornado hitting and not knowing if your family member is going to come home or not being able to afford food on the table, the gingerbread house becomes a luxury, and spending that time with your child putting it together, like those pure moments that you know the barrier of entry to helping people, I think, with hope is lower than people sometimes imagine. Like, all you have to do is like show up, or like there's so many ways to help. Like it doesn't have to be this massive thing. And we saw a lot of tears that day just with parents. Like the kids were so excited to go home and build them, and we had teddy bears. Frito Lay was there, and um people had written cards for them all over the country. So it was really, really special. And, it used to be as our calendars align. Now I'm blocking out my calendar as early as I can to be able to come to these things, because that's what it's all about. I love meeting people and taking pictures in everyday life. But and that's fun, like putting a smile on people's face doing that from like the show. But when I was there, I was just a regular person, and like you were still able to you were able to help out in such a more pure, like, wholesome way. And it was great.
I think it carries a lot more weight. And I know Hope
Yeah.
appreciates you being so hands-on and wanting to be involved in that way. It's really special and it's unique. Just going back to your role with Hope, what motivated you to join the board council? How did that come about?
I think it's something to be proud of for myself. That value that I used to look for in the bar. I've fortunately grown up a little bit, and I just see the world in a little bit different perspective where, you know, that's where I feel that sense of accomplishment and value now, is to be in a position where people trust me, to be named to the board council, and to know that I can bring a lot to Hope, and for other people to see that too. And it just makes me feel like I accomplished, um, something. And the real, like, the real joy comes from being given the opportunity. It's like if you're playing baseball and, you're in the field and it's the last out of the game, like certain people are hoping the ball is hit to them. And that's kind of how I was with this, where I wasn't, I was going to put as much time in as needed, but I just knew that if I was given the opportunity to join the board council, that I think I'll be able to help out a lot. And now it's time to execute on that. But, it's funny because sometimes I feel silly talking about it, but, I really, like, I stopped drinking for the most, I mean, I basically stopped drinking last July, and it's given me so much time and energy to put into things that I truly love. Like I was given this opportunity to if I sit back basically like a year ago, I was like, all right, I have all of these things that I was like, I don't care about that other stuff now. I just do it because that's all I do. Um, and so to be able to stay home at night and work on these projects and stuff and not worry about, being sluggish the next day is pretty great. So it's just kind of everything, plays into this ecosystem that I'm kind of building in my personal life, and it crosses over into so many other things. So
Why do you think it's important to support a veteran organization like Hope for the Warriors?
we have the largest, armed forces in the world. Like that's not going away any day soon, but if the people that are volunteering go away, then we have to. And that's just one kind of way to look at it. But it's truly, I'm a pretty empathetic person, and I, I watch as much as I can and read as much as I can. Those are really the only books I found myself reading in the last decade. Not as much anymore, but we're like firsthand accounts of war and battles and special forces guys and girls. And you don't get to go home to a hotel and sleep comfortably after a battle. And I think it's it sounds silly when I articulate it, but it's not like they go to work and then go home. Like there is an extreme amount of pain and suffering that I will never be able to speak on for the person serving and the family at home. I mean, I used to put my mom through hell by not calling her back for 2 days, but that's because I was being a dumb, college kid or drinking too much. But there's families that don't get to, speak to their family member for weeks on end or ever again. And I think like I just try to keep that perspective of that. Like we are so lucky to be able to just live in the country that we do and fall asleep safe at night and protected. And that is because other people, are giving up every single creature comfort there is. So I know that a lot of people wouldn't trade it for the world, which is awesome, but that doesn't mean that anyone else could be able to handle it, back home or take their spot. So I think it's an enormous amount of respect for them. I mean, I was very fortunate that my grandfather, I called him Pop Up, like we would golf every Tuesday with his war buddies. They served on a carrier together, a battleship, like a big ship. And we would go to the VFW for lunch and they would just tell war stories. And like, to get to grow up listening to some of that greatest generation, when they like, joined underage because their neighbor was going or their brother was going. So it just comes from an immense amount of respect and appreciation. And, you can't control what others do, but, I can control, my actions and try to spread the message in my own way.
Thank you, Craig, for being on today. And if you want to learn more about Hope for the Warriors, visit hopeforthewarriors.org. Until next time, keep in mind a little kindness goes a long way. Hope, it's what our military community needs today.